So this is a 3-minute skill on using resin pouring. So, and this is kind of things I've learned in the process of doing resin. First things first, you want to make sure your resin is warm, not hot, not boiling. This is just kind of a bit more than tepid. It's warm water. It's been sitting in there for about 15-20 minutes until when you turn the bottles it moves like water. It stops being thick and ooky and it moves more like water. So that's kind of released enough so it pours and mixes a lot easier. Second thing, if you're in a particularly dusty environment like the shed, you want some sort of dust cover for your work. So I've put a couple of plastic bags over the top of these crates just to seal them in and keep any dust out. So they're just big enough to cover what I need to cover. I'll put them over there for now. Right, third thing, everything must be dry. I know you're water bathing, so you must make sure everything, when it comes out, it's dry and no water comes up when you're pouring. Weather-wise, you need to have around or at least 20 degrees in the room and as low a humidity as possible. It's fairly humid today, so it's going to make it interesting. Right, first coat you can just pour on and get on with it. Second coat you need to sand the surface first, so it's got something to key on to. Don't worry about it being scratched, that's the whole point. If you're pouring lots of layers, do them in around about 12-hour increments. If you wait any longer, then you have to sand it back and do it that way. So these are getting their second coat today. So when pouring, do it by volume, not by weight. And I've got 2 shot glasses here which hold 2 centilitres, so it's 25 ml. And you also need to hand something to spread with, or we're just going to pour it in, stirring stick and a straw of some kind, or heat gun or something like that, or a torch. If you're using like a gas flame torch, don't do it too much, don't get too close, because you're likely to cause the top surface to set first and then it goes all funny when it goes off. Right, so that one. You need to be able to stir this for 3 minutes. Other resins have different times, but I've got here a sand timer set that's got a 3-minute thingy on it. So pour your separate parts separately, don't do them together, so they're poured and ready to go at the same time. Again, making sure there's no water riding up the bottle that's going to go out into your measuring cup. So I'm going to pretty much the top of this cup. Okay, don't delay with it, don't leave the lid off because you're more likely to spill it and end up with hardener everywhere. So that's one. And same again, dry off any water, make sure there's no drips. That's one side. You do not want to get anything wet at all, because that will really affect how it works. So pour both in, using the same size of measuring cup. Pretty much guarantees that the same amount will go in, the same amount will come out. So you end up with some left in the jars, which you can scrape round, but I'm not going to at this occasion. This way you're getting pretty much the same amount out of both jars. Now start your timer and start mixing. you're going to create bubbles doing this. It's kind of part of the nature of it. You can stir very slowly or very fast, and if you've got access to a vacuum chamber, then that's always useful to get rid of the bubbles, but I'm not particularly concerned about those because I'm only using a thin layer here. So I'm going to try and record this pretty much start to finish. It's not going to be a 3-minute recording because, well, this is going to take 3 minutes. So you need to make sure you're scraping down the sides of your cup and scraping the bottom and kind of moving upwards as well as around so that everything gets properly combined. And I'm wearing an apron and I've got a protective surface underneath my resin parts here because I've already got blobs of resin stuck to the table. I don't want any more of that. If you get to it quickly and wipe it down, you can wipe it down with some acetone or with even like a normal kind of surface wipe, as long as you're quite quick and it hasn't kind of soaked into anything. That should be fine. Obviously with a larger amount you're going to be a little bit more circumspect about your mixing, but I'm just beating this through really. This much, it's probably mixed properly by about 2 minutes, but I'm going to keep going anyway. Change hands, my hands are tired. So, as I said before, if you're doing multiple layers, do them every 12 hours. If you're going to wait any longer between layers, then wait at least 24 and then sand it and then put the coat on. Otherwise it will kind of bead up and it won't settle. This is the most aggravating part about doing resin, having to stir it. Some other types of resin need 6-minute stir in one pot, tip it into another pot, another 6-minute stir, and that's just ridiculous. So I'm using the Easy Cast, which is one that everyone seems to be using for craft work, and now that I've got the technique, it seems to work quite well. I didn't have the technique before and I was having mistakes all over the place, so now I've got it right. It's working very well. So that's my 3 minutes up, and I've got this on a jigsaw board that's covered in plastic, so it's nice and stable. So this one, I've given it one layer and then I tried to pour a second and it all beaded up around the edges, so actually I'm going to pour that on and then brush it around because I don't think that my brush is going to fit in. I'm being quite sparing because I don't have much in here. Making sure I get into these sides where I need it. And gradually work it round. Using a sponge brush can produce bubbles because of the nature of the brush. Touch more. I don't find that's a problem. With these I've got them raised up on some cardboard tubes, just so that when it drips down it doesn't stick onto the board. Means I've got some drips to take off later on, but that's not a problem. Okay, so that's a nice even layer, and I've filled in the pieces where the resin didn't sit properly. So there's that one. And I'm going to carry on and then put my covers over the top and leave them for 24 hours. Because I'm not doing another layer, this is the last layer, that's all I'm going to do. So leave them for 24 hours. and then you can start playing about with them, sand them again if you want to add another layer, or leave them for 48 hours if you're then going to finish them off and just remove kind of any bobbly bits that have stuck on. So that is how to do resin the right way, at least in my humble opinion.